Grand day, everyone. This is your host, Paul Lawrence Van. I host Wealth Academy Podcast. Glad to be with you today. We have an outstanding featured guest, and his name is Michael Ayalon. And he's going to be providing us with some insight on what it's like to work with colleges that have problems. I have a daughter who's a junior in college, and I always wonder, is she well taken care of? Do we have some solutions on campus to help students who are in need? And Michael, he does a wonderful job, and he is going to share with you today what it is like to make a difference, not only on the campus, but also in the community that it's a part of. And so the one thing that I want to do today is to make sure that you really listen, take some notes, and Michael is going to help us all along the way. So let me go over his bio real quick. Michael is the founder and CEO of Greek University, an empowering fraternity, sorority, and college student excellence company. His creativity and fortitude has resulted in a unique college speakers bureau that addresses diverse campus life challenges students face throughout the U.S. With the mission of achieving student excellence in the midst of challenges, Michael is also the founder and host of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast, of which I've been a guest and had such a great time. So, Michael, during your formative years of college life, what do you consider to be the defining moment for you that led you up to coming up with the concept for Greek University?
Thank you for that question, Lieutenant Colonel. It's an honor to be on the show, and thank you so much for your service. It's an honor to be here. This brings up a really interesting story. And to be honest with you, I think you're the first person to ask this question. So you actually get to have the juice on your show that nobody else has heard. I'll tell you a story. When I was in college, my first semester, I tell you, I was very lonely. I really was only doing one of three things. I was either eating, sleeping, or going to class. That was it. There was no social life for me in my first semester. And I remember calling my dad and saying, listen, I've given this a lot of thought, but I've decided I'm going to drop out of college and start my career without a college degree. Now, this did not make him very happy. No. His son was going to be a college graduate.
Absolutely.
And I said, but Dad, you can't force me to go back to class. And he said, well, as a matter of fact, I've rented out your room back home, so you got no place to go. And I was like, oh, okay. So now I'm going back to college. Now it's my second semester freshman year. So it's January in Buffalo. It's snowing. The whole thing, 5 feet of snow on the ground. Luckily, I sat next to my big brother in the fraternity. I didn't know it at the time, but I sat next to him in calculus class, and we built up a great relationship. And eventually, I joined the fraternity, and I found that love and support that everybody needs in order to be the best version of themselves. And I was pledging the fraternity, and this moment that you talk about was actually at initiation. I was blindfolded, and I was being initiated into the fraternity. And all of a sudden, while I was blindfolded, I started smelling like something was cooking, in the same room. And I'm like, what are they doing? We're supposed to have this initiation ceremony. Are they making breakfast? Like, what are they doing right now? And I smelled something was going on. And then all of a sudden, I just kind of put my head down on my chest a little bit. And I was like, oh, that's me. And at that point, I had been branded in the chest without my consent while I was blindfolded.
Right.
And, immediately I said, how could my brothers, how could people that are supposed to care for me and love for me do this? And I just felt betrayed at that moment. And essentially the next day after we were initiated, that was my first chapter meeting as a brother of the fraternity. And we had this tradition where the gavel would go around the room, and everybody who had the gavel got to speak whatever was on their mind at the end of the meeting. And the gavel got to me, and the room fell silent. And I said, brothers, as long as I am here, I am the immovable object. You will never harm another new member as long as I'm sitting here in this chair. And I said, if you don't like it, you can get out. Just leave.
Yes.
And you know what? We had two guys that wanted to see the hazing intensify. and they left the chapter. But from that point forward, we built the best fraternity on that college campus.
Absolutely.
And I tell you what, it was a wonderful ride. But that's really where I started thinking in college that there had to be a better way. There had to be other students that were in the same situation as me, that were a part of this hazing ritual that happens within fraternities and sororities. And I knew that there was a better way. I knew that we really needed to be true to who we are as brothers and sisters, and not harm other people, but instead lift them up. And that really kind of started my formative thinking about Greek University and how I could help fraternities and sororities around the country. And if you fast forward to today, I'm actually doing my dissertation right now. I'm in a doctorate program in assessment, learning, and student success in higher education. And I'm writing my doctorate on the early warning signs of hazing in college fraternities and sororities.
Absolutely, Michael. And I can relate to exactly what you're saying. And one of the things I remember about some of the fraternities back in the day is that they would sometimes tie up the brother to a railroad track, which a train would actually run on that track. And there were occasions where they didn't get them off in time, or taking a young lady and putting her on a chair and having her jump down on her knees. That's very painful. And so I understand, because you speak on hazing, you speak on sexual abuse, you speak on alcohol and drug abuse, and also with bringing in students as well, recruitment.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah, I do talk on all of those things. I mean, we have a total of 25 speakers. So you're right. I mean, we're talking about alcohol and drug abuse prevention, hazing prevention, sexual assault prevention. We're talking about conflict resolution skills, which we need on college campuses today. We're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're talking about eating disorders, leadership, AI, motivation, mental health, philanthropy, recruitment, resiliency. Everything that a college students need on a college campus today, we have the speakers to help engage them. We're also doing consulting services to improve fraternity and sorority councils. So we're doing constitution and bylaw review, budgeting, financial modeling, officer transition training, strategic planning, and even growth plans in the organization. We do leadership development workshops. So going back to those conflict resolution skills, communication skills, and team building within the officers. We do DEI assessments for large national fraternities and sororities, and we even do advisor training as well. So we're really end-to-end solutions within the fraternity and sorority community.
Oh, for sure. And I know I also did some research that you do quite a bit of consulting as well, which is really great, because oftentimes the universities, they're not really equipped for that.
Yeah, it's difficult right now. I mean, universities are really under the gun in terms of managing their expenses. So they're running, really lean and mean in terms of their staff and faculty, and the support services to students. So many times, if they're having a problem, usually I'm the first phone call. And the question is, how quickly can you get to campus?
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense, because you want to avoid the lawsuits.
Absolutely. And serve the students, right? At the end of the day, it's making sure that we take care of our students and that it's a safe environment for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So how has this changed since the pandemic? I know things had changed. On some campuses, they weren't even operating. A lot were operating, doing the schooling online, but that also has some conflicts involved in it as well. How has it changed from the time we had the pandemic till now with COVID?
It's a great question. I mean, these counseling centers that we have on college campuses today, they are overwhelmed. I mean, they are just straight up overwhelmed. There's not enough counselors at the counseling center on our college campuses to serve all the thousands and thousands of students that are walking around campus. Many times the college students themselves, they'll come up to me and say, Mike, this was a great program on hazing prevention, but what can you do to help us in terms of mental health? Because it takes me 3 or 4 weeks to get an appointment with a counselor on our campus. And so, what we've done is we've really started to beef up since COVID. We've beefed up our mental health team to make sure that we have those additional services to supplement what the college campus already has. So we have Britt Turpak. She talks about developing a mental health toolkit with college students and how to manage stress. I think that's a really important thing. She happens to be a yoga and a Pilates instructor.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And she also does meditation. So that's a way that she can get hands-on with the students in the morning, do yoga or Pilates with the students first thing in the morning at 9 a.m. And then that evening, she's on campus doing a keynote presentation on a mental health toolkit. So it's really, engaging the students hands-on and also in a lecture style keynote. We also brought on Dennis Gillen just recently over the last couple of months. He's reducing the stigma of mental health. We know that there's a lot of stigma around getting mental health support on a college campus, and you're almost seen as broken if somebody sees you at the counseling center on a college campus. The reverse is actually true. But there's a stigma that somehow there's something wrong with you if you need to go and get help from a counselor. But none of that is true. I wish that I would have done that as a college student. I didn't. I waited until I was an adult to talk to a counselor, and I shouldn't have waited. I think it's a great resource to help people get what's off their chest and just kind of work through some of those issues in childhood, or for those military veterans, certainly
veterans,
some of the PTSD and other things that they've seen. Dennis also talks about suicide prevention. He's lost a couple of brothers, and so his blood brothers to suicide, and so he talks about that, and also just mental health programming for men. I think that you and I, as kids, we were taught to really not show our emotions.
You got to be strong.
Yeah, you got to be strong. That's what we were told as kids. Like, you can't be crying. You're a man. You can't do that. So what does that do? That forces us to internalize it and not show any emotion. And then we get married to our wife, and she says, well, how come you're not, emotional? Because I've been taught since I was a kid to keep it in. That's why.
That is so true.
Yeah, it takes work, and then finally, a good friend of ours, both of us that actually joined the Greek University team recently, is Priscilla Maria Gutierrez.
Absolutely.
She's mental health and childhood trauma. She deals with that kind of work, especially in Latino households. She teaches coping skills, and she also talks about creating community on college campuses. So all of this, ties into mental health, and we've really beefed up our resources in those areas.
And Priscilla, she's really good because she has such a strong background as a law in the law field and also leadership. Yeah. She's really, really exceptional. I've interviewed her. She's done a really tremendous job. We're very proud of her.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, she's amazing. Just spent some time with her at a Latino fraternity convention in Dallas, Texas. I tell you what, they were blown away.
I bet. She's exceptional. Absolutely. So let's talk about what we love, which is podcasting. How did it come about, the genesis of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast, and how that's changing lives? Because I go through and I listen to the episodes that you have, and it's just off the charts great. Please share.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant Colonel. I tell you what, it's been great to put those episodes together. We're getting close to 500 episodes of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. So really, I'm just creating the resources, the free resources for college students around the country. And it's the resources that I needed as an 18-year-old college student, but didn't have it. So I'm just building it for my prior self that would have loved to have that. So that's, number one. Number two, I think college students need mentorship from people who have already experienced life and roadblocks and advice on how to get over these roadblocks. Too many times I see college students looking to each other, another college student, for advice. And I'm like, hey, there's tons of alumni out there that would love to help you. All you need to do is reach out to them. So this podcast gives them access to those people so they can hear in their own words their life stories and then figure out how to navigate through life and overcome these obstacles by listening to these professionals. So that's another piece to it. And the third piece to it, too, is that I was noticing that within my own fraternity, there were people that I would have loved to have interviewed to get them on tape and to capture that for eternity. And, slowly but surely, some of these older guys were just dying off, just natural causes. And I'm saying to myself, man, why didn't somebody capture that on tape so that way future
It's a
generations
legacy.
listen to it? And I was actually talking about that same issue at the Latino Fraternity Convention in Dallas, Texas last weekend, because they were founded in 1975 at Kane University in New Jersey. And I got to tell you, their founders are still alive. And even the faculty advisor who advised that first chapter, the first Latino fraternity in the nation, the faculty advisor is still alive, and he was at the convention. So when I saw these guys, I immediately went up to them and shook their hand and started asking them questions about what was it like to start the first Latino fraternity in the United States? And what does it look like for the next 50 years? What would you like this Latino fraternity to do over the next 50 years? And I started listening and taking notes. And when I went up on stage to give that keynote, I took the photos that I had with the founders and with the chapter advisor, and I put it up on the big screen. And I said, listen, brothers, I said, as hard as I try to have a conversation with our founders in my fraternity was started in 1897. Those guys are long dead.
They're gone.
I'll never be able to have a conversation with them as long as and hard as I try. It'll never happen. But I said, your founders and your advisor, the first advisor, is walking around this convention today. So if you don't go and shake hands with them, you are going to hate yourself later in life for missing that opportunity. So go and shake their hand and ask them questions. And so I guess the podcast is just documenting all of those adventures of meeting all of these people and making sure that somebody has captured all of this for eternity.
Absolutely. That's a wonderful thing to do. And again, like you stated, they actually have the founders there. You can talk to them. That's golden. That's golden. Yes, priceless.
Yep, I agree.
Absolutely. So, Michael, you are a very transformative speaker. Now, you've spoken at upwards of 200 colleges.
That's right. Yeah, it's over 200 college campuses. Yeah. I've also spoken at numerous fraternity and sorority conventions. I love doing that in the summertime. So yeah, I mean, I certainly talk about risk management. That's my big thing, is hazing, sexual assault, alcohol, and drug, trying to prevent all of that on college campuses. I love talking about recruitment because I really want to grow fraternity and sorority. I want more people to have that experience. And, I keep going back to this Latin fraternity, Lambda Theta Phi, because it was just so interesting to me. When you look from a higher ed perspective, the Latinos, they don't graduate. The colleges are having trouble retaining them and graduating them. So if you compare Latinos to white students on college campuses, the Latinos have a lower graduation rate. And this has been going on for a long time. And, the founders of this Latin fraternity, Lambda Theta Phi, they basically came up with this idea in 1975 that if we have community, if we have belonging, if we have this fraternity made specifically for Latino men, then we know that they will graduate in higher numbers. And that's exactly what is happening. And so it's such a noble cause to join and to be a part of, because when you're selling this Latin fraternity, right, you're one of these brothers on a college campus, you're selling much more than just a fraternity. You're much better than just a used car salesman. No, you're selling opportunity. You're selling jobs.
Networking.
A future for generations to come in your Latino family. So it's such a noble cause. I was just so blown away by it. So yeah, it's great to be a part of these movements, no matter if it's the Divine Nine and the historically Black fraternities and sororities, Latino fraternities, Asian fraternities. It's just, to be a part of all of this is just absolutely incredible. And I know the impact, the positive impact it's having in our communities and also for these families going forward.
Yes, there's nothing like the brotherhood and the sisterhood. And when a person is on campus, it's about the family. Because it's culture, and it's a subset of the whole, which I think is really wonderful. And I'm glad that I'm in a fraternity. Two of my brothers, so three out of 5 of us, boys in the family, are in a fraternity. So it's really a wonderful thing. And so we recognize the need to really get in there and get that fellowship as well.
It's critical.
So now you are involved with books.
Yes.
So now I want to talk about From Letters to Leaders. And this is book number 4. So you have 3 other books. And I think you have some more coming on the way. But I want people to learn about the book and the inspiration for your amazing books.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's called From Letters to Leaders. This is a book series that's available on Amazon. Just
Uh-huh.
type in From Letters to Leaders and you'll find it. Or you can put in my name, Michael Ayalon, Ayalon. But the first book in the series was called Creating Impact on Your College Campus and Beyond.
Okay.
And that really covered everything that a college student would need in order to make a big impact in their community and on their
Sure.
college campus. Then we started thinking about hazing prevention. So we wanted to write a book just for hazing prevention
Yeah.
because it was such a big problem and students were getting killed. And
Uh-huh.
so the name of that one is Redefining New Member Education and Leveraging Belonging to Eliminate Hazing. Then
Uh-huh.
the third book came around. We wanted to show brothers and sisters how to use their fraternity and sorority experience in order to land their dream job. So
Yeah.
the third book is called Leveraging Your Fraternity or Sorority Experience to Land Your Dream Job. The fourth one that you have on the screen now, that one is called Perseverance and How to Be a Great Fraternity or Sorority Alumnus. So really, there's no plan. Nobody actually talks to you about what to do after graduation. They
Yeah.
just send you on your way, make sure the check is cashed, and on with your life. And the question is, well, now what? You just left me in the middle of a field. Where do I go from here? Uh,
Exactly.
so we wanted to give them that map on what to do and where to
Sure.
go. And the last book, the fifth book that we wrote, is called Using Artificial Intelligence or using
Intelligence.
AI to grow your fraternity or sorority. I wanted to show how to use the latest technology in order to grow your fraternity or sorority. So we've done that. We have a sixth book that's going to be coming out. I don't want to spoil that particular release, but that's going to be coming out in December.
Okay.
So we love just writing books and kind of filling those gaps in areas where nobody has really talked about, but we felt that there is a big need.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I tell you that having the books is very important because again, it's history.
Yeah.
A book represents history, but I really like the one about the artificial intelligence. See, I was talking to people yesterday on this presentation that people are fearful of artificial intelligence. I said, but there's no need if you embrace it because human intelligence will always trump over artificial intelligence. You have
Yeah.
to input into artificial intelligence, but all the ideas and concept actually comes from the person who provides information to it. So human intelligence will always be, and especially on a campus.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a great tool. It's here to stay. Whether you agree with it or you don't agree with it, it's here. And
Yes,
so for me, I think it's important that we give exposure to college students on how to use AI for
sure,
good. And
absolutely.
I think, college professors, if you're scared about it, just have a red, yellow, green system, right? If there
Yeah,
is a particular assignment that you want to give your students and you're concerned about them using AI and you don't want them to use it, just
sure.
make that a red assignment, which means you can't use AI. You have to have all original thoughts on this. And there are plenty of systems to detect if you're using AI. Then maybe you have a yellow assignment that where
Sure.
questions 1 and 2, you can use AI. And then questions 3 and 4 has to be all of your own original thoughts. And then, maybe you have, a green assignment where, you can use AI, you can do whatever you want. So
Uh-huh.
I think that employers today, they really expect that their employees are going to know how to use this technology in
Sure.
order to be more efficient in their jobs. We all know that companies are looking for efficiency. And so
Absolutely.
if you don't know how to use it, I think you're behind the eight ball. And I think
Sure.
this book, Using AI to Grow Your Fraternity or Sorority, gives college students a mechanism, a test, if you will, in
Yeah.
terms of how to use AI for something good. And then once you read the book and you understand the technology,
Uh-huh.
then you can apply it to hundreds of other tasks. So I
Absolutely.
think it's a great entry if you're scared about AI or you don't know anything about AI and you're
Uh-huh.
interested, pick up the book Using AI to Grow Your Fraternity or Sorority, and it'll be a really enlightening experience. And then you'll be able to fill in the blanks in terms of how do I make my own life more efficient in terms of my daily tasks.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And again, it's nothing to be feared, but it's something to be embraced because it's all about that productivity and it's
Yep.
all about being more efficient. And we want to impact positively the bottom line. And a student who can do this is going to really be selected pretty fast in that recruitment process as an employee. Which you talked about earlier. Now,
Mm.
Michael, I would love for you to provide some words of wisdom to the people who are listening here, maybe to the student, maybe to the parent, to let them know that they're in good hands with Greek University.
They are certainly in good hands with Greek University. There's no question about that. I'm always fighting for the college student. My advice to other college students and parents, I know a lot of people are stressed out about, their career and their direction in life, and they don't really know which way to go. What I would tell you is make sure that you're doing something that you absolutely love, but also make sure it's something that you're really good at too.
Exactly.
Those two things are really, really important. And so, I was an accounting major in college. I actually, my first job, was ultimately in accounting, and I was doing debits and credits. But when I got out in the real world and I did it, I was just bored to tears. I was like, there's got to be more to life than debits and credits. It's
Me,
black
me
and
too,
white.
Michael. Me too.
Yeah, it's just black or white. There was no creativity whatsoever. What they do with creative accountants. They put them in jail. So
They put me
I
in
didn't
jail.
want that to be me. But I said there's got to be more to life, and eventually I figured out this love of public speaking, and I happen to have a skill with it. I happen to be really good at it, and so it's something that I love, and it's something that I'm really good at, and that's that intersection where you can do really well and achieve great heights. So start thinking about what you really enjoy to do and what you're really good at too. There's a whole bunch of people that would love to be singers, and they go on American Idol, but then they open their mouth and they're terrible singers. They're not good at it. So don't do that because you're not good at it. Right? So start thinking about some of that. Yeah. So start thinking about some of that. I think that'll help you in terms of direction in your life. And ultimately, I want people to stick to their values. We get values from our parents, we get values from our religion, we get values from our organization, whether that be the U.S. military or that be our fraternity or sorority. I want people to be true to their values and think about those values every single day and ask yourself, am I really in line with those values, or have I veered off the path somewhere? And I think if we do that, and that's another reason why I love fraternity, I think it really does instill those values in young men and women. And I think that's incredibly important today. So stick to those values and stay true to those things. And if you do, then you're going to be just fine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you so much for that, Michael. What I want to put up here now, of course, this is episode 265, and this is, of course, for those people listening and those on the archive a little bit later, is to let you know that our esteemed guest today, Michael Ayalon, he is the CEO of Greek University, and he has just really shared with us just some valuable information, content, shared his expertise, how he got started, and then in that process now. And Michael, if you would, please talk to us a bit about where you plan on going in the next, say, 2 to 3 years or 2 to 5 years with Greek University and with the Fraternity Foodie Podcast, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a great question. And, I really do take things day by day. And I think the answer to that really lies with our customers. I ask every single day on social media. I have a big TikTok following and Instagram following. I ask my clients all the time, how can we help you? And I really count on our clients to say, this is what we need in terms of additional resources. So if there's anybody listening right now to this podcast, contact me. Just go onto the Greek University website. It's greekuniversity.org, or you can follow me on social media. I'm at Greek University, whether that be on TikTok or whether that be on Instagram, and just let me know what resources you need, because that's the only way I know what new resources to add to the podcast, what types of guests you want to hear from, but also what additional services I can add at Greek University and additional speakers that I can add to the roster in order to satisfy that need on a college campus. And I think, we're in really good shape here today. I think I'd love to continue to grow my relationship with fraternities and sororities on a national level. I'm starting to win awards, from various fraternities, from interfraternal contributions. And there's nothing that feels better to me than to win an award like that from one of your peers. I mean, that's huge. I mean, the amount of respect that goes into that, to award somebody who's not even in your fraternity, but you just see them as contributing to the fraternal movement, and you get an award for that. I mean, that's very humbling to me. And I can't wait.
Fraternity is what, about 115,000 people?
Yeah, I mean, my fraternity has 115,000 people in it. When I start getting awards from other fraternities that have 100, 200,000, 400,000 members, and they're giving me an award, for interfraternal contributions. I don't even know what to say about that. You know what I mean? Like, that's just incredible. I mean, one award that I'm going to be winning this summer is from Alpha Delta Phi fraternity. They're giving me the Robert Chamberlain Gold Medal, and Robert Chamberlain, he's the guy who won the Civil War for the Union. I mean, what he did was incredible. He turned the entire tide of the Civil War, and he won the Civil War for the Union soldiers. And the amount of respect that he had for the Confederates, even when the Confederates were about to lose that battle, he made sure that all of his soldiers stood at attention to recognize the fact that he had just fought a really difficult battle against, the Confederate soldiers, and he made the Union soldiers stand at attention when they basically came to say the war is over, we lost. It's just an incredible life, an incredible human. And so when you start winning awards and they're named after guys like Robert Chamberlain, who happens to be a brother of Alpha Delta Phi fraternity, it's just humbling. I mean, I'll never have that kind of bravery that Robert Chamberlain had, but I hope to have his tenacity in terms of spreading the goals of fraternity and sorority around the nation.
See, his legacy lives on through you and your brotherhood. Absolutely. Exactly right. Absolutely. So, Michael, thank you so much for sharing that. And really, it's an honor to interview you. And of course, Michael knows that he's one of my favorite people. So, so there's some bias here, but I love the fact that he's such an exceptional businessman and that he's trying to work towards the greater good. And that's really what it's all about, especially for our younger folks. And I happen to have two Generation Z children myself. So we know that they'll be in good hands.
Yes.
And that's all we can do. I also want to let people know, again, to go out to Apple Podcasts and rate and review episode 265 and give Michael a 5-star rating. We really would appreciate that because he's provided just some amazing content today. And have your family, friends, and your colleagues listen to this episode. And we really appreciate everything that you've done, Michael, and continued excellence in all that you do. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel. I'll see you soon.
All right. That sounds good. Everyone, I'll see you on the next episode of Wealth Academy Podcast. Have a great day, everyone, and continued excellence. And don't forget, www.greekuniversity.org.